So now what we want to talk about is how to find the vertex of an equation. We've talked about it before. In the past, we said find the two x-intercepts and then find the center point. That's okay, but it doesn't always work out nicely, especially when we have decimal values as our x-intercepts. So today we're going to talk about another method for finding your vertex. So this first question, when they asked when will it reach its maximum height, they asked for the x value. And so really what they're asking for here, in other words, is what's our line of symmetry, right? What x value are we going to pass through? And to find that x value, we're going to go ahead and use what we call vertex formula. So here's the vertex formula. It's x equals negative b over 2a, otherwise known as opposite b over 2a. I always think of the vertex formula as like a little miniature part of the quadratic formula. So whenever you think of our song, you can kind of shorten it to remember this formula. Now, how do we apply it? Well, to find the x value of our vertex, we're just going to sub in the opposite of 64 and divide it by 2 times the a value. So let's try that down here. I'm going to do x equals opposite b, so negative 64, over 2 times our a value. So our a value again is negative 16. And so what does that equal? It equals negative 64 over negative 32. And what will I get when I divide these out? Positive 2. So that's it. That's the x value of my vertex. And that's going to answer this question here. When will it hit its maximum height? It's going to hit it at 2 hours. So now what about the y value? Okay, I know the x value. I know that if I think about my vertex location right here, right? I know the x part of that vertex. I know the x is equal to 2, but I still don't know the y. So how do I find that? Well, we've talked about this before, but once you know the x and you're trying to find y, all we need to do is plug that value in. We're not using x and y here, we're using t and h, but that's okay. Concept remains the same. We're going to plug that x value into the equation and solve. So you can see here our solution. How did we get that solution? Let's find out, right? So here we go. We have our t. We don't know our h, so we're going to go ahead and just write h equals negative 16 times 2. That's our t that we're interested in. That's the time that will lead us to our greatest height. And then we're just going to use order of operations to help us. So order of op says square and then multiply, right? Exponents before multiplication. So here I'm going to get negative 16 times 4. Here, I could do this together, but I'll wait until the next step. All right, now I'm going to multiply. This is going to get me negative 64. This is going to get me positive 128. And this is going to be 80 still. As I add these two up, I'm going to get positive 64. And if I add 80 to positive 64, I do get 144. So that's going to go ahead and be my answer for this guy. So what is the maximum height the helicopter will reach? It's going to reach 144 feet. And how do we know that again? Well, we just found out over here that it's going to reach its maximum height 2 hours into the flight. So all I had to do was plug 2 hours in as my time and solve accordingly to get to my final answer.